ISKCON, Freedom Mayapur, Chanmudaya Mandir. We'd like to welcome all the devotees. Freedom Mayapur Dham ki. Yabdeep Shri Mayapur Dham ki. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Śrīmad is divine loving grace. Abhaya Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. I am Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaracharya. Asotera Śrīmad is divine grace. Pati Gosai Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Krishna Radhakun Giriraj Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki. Shri Chaitra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Gaurāṅga Maya Ki. Yamuna Maya Ki. Bhakti Devi Tasamarana Ki. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki. Grantha Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Ki. Nitya Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Gaurāṅga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Ajnanatamurandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshon Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Utapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopaka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurāṅgi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishubhanusati Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhana Namane Nashesha Klesha Nashaya Paramananda Daine Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Matsangin Madguru Manmadana Madnistaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostate Asaru Saru Tadayanati Nicho Chatakara Hanamuncha Karachinmam Premnarit Kitayos Pura Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Madhurayat Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 5, Creative Impetus. Chapter 9, text number 13, which is in prose. And then we're going to be doing 13 and 14. So I'll read 13 and we'll do 14 together. Or we'll read the word for word together. Tasya deva muktasya pashayo pandavim tadanuchara paridvarvanto nishin nishtya samaye tamasaritayam anadigata pashava akasmikena viraina kedaran virashanena Mrigavaradibhya samrakshamanam angri pravarshitamapashyam. Translation. The leader of the dacoits captured a man-animal for sacrifice, but he escaped. The leader ordered his followers to find him. They ran in different directions but could not find him. Wandering here and there in the middle of the night, covered by dense darkness, they came to a paddy field where they saw the exalted son of Angira of the Angira family, Jadabharat, who was sitting in an elevated place, guarding the field against the attacks of deer and wild pigs. Text number 14. Technological issues. Text number 15, okay. Atataminam anavadya lakshanam avamrishya bhartakarma nishpatim manyamana badvarashanaya chandika griham upaniyor muda vikashita vandana. Synonyms. Ata, thereafter. They. The servants of the leader of the dacoits. Enam, this. Jadabharat, Anavadyalakshanam, as bearing the characteristics of a dull animal, because of a fat body like a bull, and because of being deaf and dumb. Alamrishya, recognizing. Bhartakarma nishpatim, the accomplishment of their master's work. Manyamanaha, understanding. Badva, binding tightly. Rasanaya, with ropes. Chandika Griham, to the temple of the goddess Kali. Upaniyu, brought. Muda, with great happiness. Vikashita Vandana, with bright faces. Translation. The followers and servants of the dacoit chief considered Jadabharat to possess qualities quite suitable for a man-animal, and they decided that he was a perfect choice for sacrifice. Their faces bright with happiness, they bound him with ropes and brought him to the temple of the goddess Kali. Purport. In some parts of India, animalistic men are still sacrificed before the goddess Kali. However, such a sacrifice is only performed by Sudras and dacoits. Their business is to plunder the wealthy, and to become successful, they offer an animalistic man before the goddess Kali. It should be noted that they never sacrifice an intelligent man before the goddess. In the body of a Brahmana, Bharata Maharaj appeared deaf and dumb, yet he was the most intelligent man in the world. Nonetheless, being completely surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he remained in that condition and did not protest being brought before the deity for slaughter. As we have learned from the previous verse, he was very strong and could have very easily avoided being bound with ropes. But he did not do anything. He simply depended on the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his protection. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes surrender unto the Supreme Lord in this way. Mara biraka biyo icha tohara nityadasha pratituya adhikara. My Lord, I am now surrendered unto you. I am your eternal servant, and if you like, you can kill me, or if you like, you can protect me. In any case, I am fully surrendered unto you. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravadi Pracharane Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschata Deshatadane. Namaste Shivananda Dāsa Pracharane. Snignasi Lavanone Paschata Chakshashena Maha. So, Hare Krishna. So what we're experiencing and hearing of this in this verse is how a pure devotee deals with certain circumstances. This is a circumstance of terror, you can say. I think all of the mothers, they have the nightmares of their children being caught by the dacoits and, hurt or brutalized, abused. And so this is an experience of extreme terror for most jivas. If you're captured by a group of people and tied and then taken to a temple where they're going to sacrifice you, this is horrible. This is very scary. Human sacrifice is very, very dark. And it's religion in the mode of ignorance. It's not an actual, genuine practice of religion, sacrifice human being, but because of the darkness, people do such things. And it still goes on today. I don't think it doesn't. It's coming out now, all of it's coming out in these Epstein files, the human sacrifice and all this. And also Bhakti-tirtha Swami, if you read the Spiritual Warrior books, he speaks about it, human sacrifice. He was privy to associating with a lot of world leaders. And he speaks about how once he began to associate with world leaders, they told him of certain elites in the world who go to islands and do such human sacrifices. So Jad Bharat, he's been captured by these dacoits, and now they're going to sacrifice him in front of the goddess Kali. We can ask ourselves, what would we do in such a circumstance? How would we respond to being captured and going to be sacrificed? Most people, we're all devotees, so we have some, I think, higher level of consciousness in approaching this, but most people would beg for their life, scream, try to call the cops, do anything, run. Devotees, most of us would probably do the same thing. Yeah. Pray to Lord Nrsingadev, please save my life. Please save my life. That's very common. I was walking down in Sedona, and I was chanting, and I was so beautiful. I was being drawn by the beautiful forest, and there was these giant houses. I looked at this giant house, and I saw this massive German Shepherd running at me, and it was really scary looking. I'm usually not, spooked by dogs, but this German Shepherd really was intimidating. And I was chanting, and it came to the fence, and I thought, if that German Shepherd jumps this fence, I'm going to die. And I walked, and on the way back, I was walking, here the German Shepherd comes again. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I'm looking, and then all of a sudden the German Shepherd's over the fence and growling at me and comes and starts biting at me. And I got scared because usually, I have a tendency to fight, but this was right here, and there's this giant German Shepherd, and there's some lady calling, the name of the dog, and I'm like, I put my hands up, and I just started praying to Lord Nrsingadev right there, and because I was thinking I was dead, because it was a huge dog, and then somehow or another, he turned around and ran back, but I was actually scared, and I was praying to Lord Nrsingadev, I thought, okay, my best option here is to go with the Lord Nrsingadev option, but still, we're praying, God, please save us. This is common. Even Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says that if you're in a dangerous situation, even a pure devotee prays to God, please save me. That doesn't actually stop one from the quality of pure devotional service. But Jad Bharat, he's such a pure devotee that even though he's being captured by dangerous dacoits, he's not even praying to Krishna. He's just, whatever you do, do with me what you will. This is an extraordinarily high level of surrender. Rather than even approaching Krishna, you can easily stop these dacoits. No, Jad Bharat's just, whatever happens, happens. I'm surrendered to you. So a pure devotee, in a sense, he doesn't ask God for anything. So sometimes we pray to Krishna, oh dear Krishna, please help me find this, help me do that. And sometimes we can think, Krishna, I'm not asking you for anything, but if you want, you can fulfill my desire. I'm not going to ask you for it, but you know what it is. So in this way, the conditioned living entity is holding on to so many material things. But a devotee who genuinely has conviction in their service to Krishna, they don't no need to pray for anything because they're convinced that Krishna will take care of them. Ananyash chintayantam mam yejana paripashite tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 22nd verse, that for those who worship me with exclusive devotion, not going anywhere else, for them I preserve what they have and carry what they lack. So we want to qualify for that situation that Krishna will preserve what we have and carry what we lack. How do we get there? We don't take shelter of anything else. And generally in the context of that shloka, we're hearing about, we don't take shelter of demigods. People go to demigods, like we're seeing these dacoits, they're taking shelter of demigods, Bhadrakali. But a pure devotee doesn't take shelter of any demigod. But even though in American culture, we don't tend to, we never really learned of demigods growing up. If you have to pray for something, you go to Jesus. And then in the Catholic Church, they have certain saints for certain things too, that intervention from, oh, you lost something, you go to pray to St. Anthony. You're getting attacked by ghosts, you go to pray to St. Michael. Everything. There's some saint for everything. You have some horrible disease that can't be cured, you go to pray to St. Jude. So in that way, they kind of have that concept. Of course, they understand that the saints are praying, are intervening, and God is still doing. But still, this is the same thing as a so-called demigod worship, taking shelter of something other than Krishna. Now, you can say, then many people criticize the Catholic Church. Oh, they pray to Mary. Most of them pray to Mary to come closer to Jesus and God, that's bona fide. But not for, oh, I need this, I need that, material things. This is not pure surrender. It's not pure devotional service. So even though we understand in America, okay, there's only one God, most people understand that because they're raised Christian. and especially, Protestant Christians are very adamant about the monotheistic culture. But then we still take shelter of other things, because at least the demigod worship allows one to kind of put faith in something other than themselves. But so many people, they're so-called God believers by name only, but they don't take shelter of God for anything. So they're also worshiping in vain. So they're putting their faith, or they're putting their need for shelter into their own activities, into money, into my deha patya kalatradish atma sanyash vasatiti kesham pramata nirhanam pashinapi napashyati. Rather than taking shelter of Krishna, and although they see that everyone's dying around them, they take shelter of fallible soldiers like the body, the children, the family, and the wife. So this cannot be considered ananyash chintayantamam, that I'm taking shelter exclusively of Krishna. Because, I'm thinking that this is going to make me happy. This is going to satisfy my problem. Because actually, the problem is not what we label it. We label the problem, I want a wife. We label the problem, I want a better living situation. We label the problem, I can't practice devotional service because of this. We label the problem, I have a disease. But the real problem is that you're uncomfortable because you're in the material world and you have a material body, which has concomitant uncomfortable factors. So you're always going to be uncomfortable in this world. And so this is why devotional service has no material impediment. And that's something I've been really meditating upon lately, is how there's no material impediment to devotional service. There's no time where, if I just get this way, it's going to be better. If I do this, it's going to be better to practice bhakti. Bhakti happens right now. When we make that decision right now that I'm going to chant Hare Krishna, I'm going to serve Krishna. And the beautiful thing about serving Krishna is whatever situation you find yourself in, you can transform that situation into a way to serve Krishna. Whether you're a householder, a brahmachari, whatever you may be, you simply say right here, right now, today, I'm going to start making plans on how to serve Krishna. And I've been meditating on this because I had some kind of period of time where we had some kind of like lull and there was not so many new people coming around. And I was thinking, they'll come. And then I got a little chastised by my Gurudev. He kind of said, what's wrong with you? You're not doing something. You're not trying. And I felt kind of like, I was a little bit angry actually. But then I realized that my kind of spirit to really go out and try, make a difference, had kind of waned a little bit. And so this trip to Sedona, this preaching trip to Sedona, was kind of an attempt to, I'm going to put some energy into this. I'm really going to try to make something happen. And it was such a major success. And also even, I've been really calling people like every week, telling them, not even asking them to come to the Krishna Cove. I just say, I'll see you tonight. So we've also had some big burst in new people and very interested new folks. So we have to decide that right now I'm going to actually make some serious endeavor to do some service. And in Lord Chaitanya's movement, that service looks like going out and spreading Krishna consciousness. Because if we read the Nectar Devotion says that Krishna consciousness is all auspicious, Shubhada. And Prabhupada, he explains why it's all auspicious. Does anybody know why Prabhupada says devotional service is all auspicious? What Prabhupada says is devotional service is all auspicious because it works for the benefit of all. So when you become a devotee, when you're working in Krishna consciousness, you're working for the benefit of all. So that means we have to practice Krishna consciousness with the mood of working for the benefit of all. That means we're taking part in Lord Chaitanya's preaching movement. We're actually taking part in doing something actively to spread Krishna consciousness. It's each person's responsibility. And in my experience, the difference between, chanting Hare Krishna and feeling good and chanting Hare Krishna and feeling ecstasy is when you have that endeavor to really go out and make a difference in other people's lives and spread Krishna consciousness. So Jad Bharat, he didn't take shelter of anything else. He didn't take shelter of any situation other than the situation he found himself in. He was fully surrendered to Krishna, and therefore Krishna protected him. And we'll see how that happens later on. So he's being attacked by these dacoits. Rather than fighting back, rather than begging, rather than praying to demigods, rather than even praying to Krishna to save him, he simply accepted that Krishna is in control. And, Make Krishna, what is it? Rake Krishna Mare Ke, Mare Krishna Rake Ke. If Krishna wants to kill me, no one can save me. If Krishna wants to save me, no one can kill me. So I want to kind of focus in on Prabhupada. He focuses on Jad Bharat's surrender. And I want to focus on that also. What does it actually mean to surrender? And there's a lot of different, ways we can look at this. But, Krishna says, Mad Eka. He says that make me number one. So we have different priorities in life. And if Krishna is our priority, that's a sign of surrender. Now, we may be in different positions in life. Some people may work, some people may do this or that. But the symptom that Krishna gives as how to surrender to Krishna. Sarva dharman prityaja mam ekam sharanam bhajaha. It says, make me number one. So that means when you see someone who's a devotee and Krishna is their priority in life, that they may be doing so many things, but they're doing them for Krishna, they're offering the fruits to Krishna, and especially their sadhana is mam eka. It's number one in life. It's very important. That's a symptom of a surrendered person, or a person who's moving towards surrender. Another way you can understand surrender is surrender means no control. And when you analyze, our sufferings in the material world, so much of it is because we try to be control. We try to be the controller. We want to control the situations around us. And even this can turn into diseases. Like I know someone who has severe, and people say, oh, I'm OCD, but they're not actually OCD. They're not. They say, oh, I'm OCD. They're just clean people. But if you know someone with actual OCD, it's a real serious mental illness. And it's a lot scarier and worse than just someone who's a clean freak. So this desire to control, I need to control things. And so why are we unhappy? Well, the reason we experience so much unhappiness is because things are not the way we want them to be. And that's actually, Prabhupada translates it to envy, but you tune into the word more deeply, that's really matsarya. That's what matsarya means, is that I'm kind of angry, I'm kind of upset, I'm dissatisfied with the way that God is arranging things. And so out of that sense of dissatisfaction, in order to kind of make things the way we want them to do, the living entity misuses his free will and tries to create a circumstance by which he can enjoy. And therefore, he has to suffer. So we're always wanting control. We want to be controllers. We want, especially of other people, we want other people to do what we want them to do. And this is why, there's so much kind of warning around, men, woman, male, female relationships in the material world, because it's a manifestation of, so much of the time, not all the time, but so much of the time, manifestation of, I want you to do something for me so that I can experience pleasure. This is the sense of being God, or pretending to be God. And we can either work together at that, which, that's when people are doing good together, or we can, now that you're not doing what I want, now we're going to fight about it. And so as long as we want other people, we're trying to, have, or say, expectations, and trying to manipulate the material world to suit our needs. Or in other words, as long as we have our own motive, ulterior motive that we can create, then we're never going to become happy. So material life in a nutshell just means simply trying to take control, trying to be in control. And the Ishopanishad says, Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kinchit jagatam jagat tena tyak tena bunjitaha madridata sasudhanam. So we have our quota. We can take our tona. Tena tyak tena bunjitaha. We can take our quota. We have the right to that, but no more. Otherwise, we are simply trying to control that which is not ours. And therefore, we're going to find ourselves becoming entangled. So we'll go into material life in that way. And therefore, the Shastras all recommend is developing a sense of detachment. We have to become detached. We have to develop detachment. Yet still, we somehow have to work into this world. So Krishna, he defines sannyas, actually says, anashrita karma palam karyam karma karotiya, sa sannyasi cha yogi cha naniragdana chakraya. He says that a true sannyasi is anashrita karma phalam, is someone who's detached from the fruits of their actions. So this is a sense of matsarya. Being attached to the fruit of our action is trying to be a controller. And Prabhupada gives a great example that there's a doctor. Sometimes a doctor, he can work very hard to save a person, and still that person may not be saved. You have to sign all these papers when you go into surgery that we may kill you, but you can't sue us. If we kill you, we accidentally cut your artery and you can't sue us. So in that way, when we work, we have to become detached from the fruits. Otherwise, that sense of trying to control it ruins the quality of our work and also entangles us. So anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karotiya, but still we work as is obligated. So we find ourselves in certain circumstances. We may find ourselves in this circumstance or that circumstance. And in any case, we have to perform some action. So Krishna is recommending we do those actions for Krishna. We act as is obligated without attachment, offering that to Krishna. He says, sa sannyasi cha yogi cha. That's the real mystic and that's the real sannyasi, not he who lights no fire and performs no action. So how do we actually tune into that? We have to understand what it is we can control and what it is we can't control. If we can understand what it is we can control, that will help us greatly. So what can we control in our life? What do we actually have control over? Yeah.
Free will. We choose our desires to some degree.
We do have free will. So if we're taking up an activity, in any activity we do, we have that ability to choose. Okay, I'm choosing, and I'm acting. Or I have to go out on book distribution. So if I go out on book distribution, I'm doing that. Now I can be very obsessed with the result of how many books I distribute or this or that, but really what I can't control how many books are going to go out or how many people are going to say yes. That's something that's out of my control. But one thing I can control is the quality of my endeavor. You have control over the quality of your endeavor. So rather than wasting your energy thinking about the results, which are not in your control, you can actually focus your energy on the quality of your endeavor. And when that endeavor becomes dedicated to Krishna, then naturally you're going to want the quality of that endeavor to become very nice. This is actually karma yoga. You can say karma mishra bhakti, depending on your advancement and your attachment to Krishna. It can become bhakti yoga. But nonetheless, the same principle applies that whatever you're doing, you're dedicating that to Krishna. And because you're dedicating that to Krishna, that service is going to be nice. You're going to make that nice. And so you have control over the quality of your endeavor. Whatever you're doing, you can do a nice job, or you can try your best to do something nice, even if that result doesn't work out. So you have that ability. That's something you do have control over. You have control over the strength or the power of your endeavor. You can endeavor very strong, very hard for something. Just like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada came to America. He tried so intensely, so hard. He worked so diligently to make something happen. But the ultimate miracle that took place is because Krishna was empowering Srila Prabhupada. Krishna helped Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada made the endeavor. So we have to do our part, and then Krishna does his part. So one thing we understand is Krishna is reciprocal. This is a reciprocal universe. And if we surrender to Krishna, Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So to the degree we surrender by actually putting our willpower into something. And that willpower simply means, our free will means that I will do something. It means I can do it and I will do it. Whereas lack of free will, or you can say the mentality of a person who is not going to serve Krishna is, I can't and I won't. And I was just hearing Guru Maharaj speak about something. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was chastising him, and he said, I can't do that, Maharaj. And he said, no, it's not that you can't do it, you won't do it. And so the mentality, I can't, especially when it comes to devotional service, Prabhupada said this impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So rather than developing that mentality, we develop a mentality of I will do it and I can do it. Like I have this bracelet, which Vaisheshika Prabhu put on my hand. So I always wear it, but now it's faded out. But it used to say, assume it can be done. Assume it can be done. He said, because he said, Lord Chaitanya is signing all the checks. So therefore, we have to just focus on the quality of our endeavor rather than focusing on that which we can't control. And in this way, a living entity can work without envy. A living entity can work without that false sense of control, that false sense of I need to control this, I need to control that. Rather, we just simply work accordingly, and then Krishna is in control. So another thing to understand is, I think devotees, especially now that we live in an international age of the internet, we have what's called the sphere of control, and then we have what's called the sphere of influence. So you become very disturbed when you're not working in your sphere of control, but rather you're focused on your sphere of influence. Or, say that? Fear of concern?
Influence and control.
Okay. What's the other one?
Control and concern.
Concern. Oh yes, concern. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So you have a sphere of concern. Okay, GBC is doing this, so-and-so is doing that. You have so much, they're doing this and that, but you can't do anything about it. I've seen devotees that were very nice devotees leave ISKCON because they're just caught up in the imaginary world. They don't even understand what's actually going on, but because they're caught up in this world of imaginary concerns, which they have no part of, that they ruin their own personal spiritual life. So in terms of our own personal connection with God, which we have to understand is our main kind of focus in life, that, I always say this, and I say this always, I say it time and time again, that if something or somehow or another ISKCON just totally fell apart and unraveled tomorrow, it really wouldn't change the way I live my life. I'm still going to chant Hare Krishna. I'm still going to read Srila Prabhupada's books. I'm still going to teach others the things I learn in Srila Prabhupada's books. So our own spiritual life should be based on what we've learned from Srila Prabhupada and from our spiritual teachers. And the work we do within our ISKCON, that's how we are serving our spiritual master and spiritual teachers. But still, most of it's not even in our control. What is in our control is the quality of our endeavor, which is how are we endeavoring in our spiritual life. And so we find that the majority of persons who spend all their time criticizing the GBC and ISKCON, the quality of their actual spiritual practice is very low, because it takes so much energy to focus on this stuff and to think about this stuff rather than actually thinking about Krishna, reading the Krishna book, doing something and hearing something that's actually valuable for my own personal relationship with God. So rather what we can control is our own, personal endeavor, and we can help others around us, and maybe in our temple, depending on our position, we can do something. Otherwise, we can't. We let it go. And in this way, we avoid this sense of false controllership. And then there's the sense of self-righteousness, and that's always, we had a devotee, or there was a fellow in the program in Sedona. He was asking about self-righteousness, and no one really likes someone who's self-righteous. Especially, we see that at the campus. The Christians come out and we're all going to hell, and they're all going to go to heaven because they're Christian and they're self-righteous. So, how can we avoid that, or how do we understand what that means? Is that I am thinking that my activities are completely correct and no one else's activities are correct. And in that way, it's also a sense of, you could say, false proprietorship, false controllership. And I have to think about everybody else's and compare them to mine. So I lose my energy on my own spiritual life. There's one prayer that they teach you sometimes when you're in counseling, and the Serenity Prayer, which is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't control, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Which I think that's a beautiful prayer, universally applicable. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't control. How should I? And the courage to change the things I can. So we have to have that focus. And so in that way, we see that Jud Bharat here in this verse, he is realizing, there's really not much I can do here. We see that he's not dumb, because when Rahugana Maharaj captured him and he was, walking with the palanquin, and he had angered Rahugana Maharaj because of him trying to not step on the ants and so forth. Finally, when Rahugana Maharaj was going to have him whipped, Jud Bharat spoke. He can do something here. He can actually help this person. He helped Rahugana Maharaj, and he spoke. So it's not that he's just like kind of dumb. No, he's thinking, I really can't do anything. These dacoits are dangerous persons, and they're going to sacrifice me, so I might as well just remain peaceful and chant Hare Krishna. In that way, we see his surrender. There's other examples too. We hear in the 7th canto, we hear about the Python sage. One of my favorites. Mother Tsunami always talks about the Python sage. She first person to tell me about the Python sage when I was new Bhakta. The Python sage, Prahlad Maharaj is walking in the forest, and he comes across an individual whom looks to be kind of interesting, a very strange looking man, very large, laying there in the forest. But Prahlad Maharaj, he was able to tell he was a liberated person, and then there was some dialogue between them. And the Python sage, he basically says, sometimes I find myself sleeping in a palace, sometimes I find myself sleeping in the dirt, but I really don't have to do anything. I don't endeavor for nothing. Everything just simply comes by Krishna's will. And it's true, actually. Like, we were in Sedona, we were sleeping in a palace, right, Nitai? And then now I'm sleeping in the hot room. So we find that things like this will come. How is it that I've managed to travel so many places without making money? Because money comes, you have a certain amount of wealth that's allotted to you by karma. It's going to come. You don't have to actually think too much about it. You have a certain amount of material enjoyment that's allotted to you. So we have to just make just enough endeavor so that we can keep our Krishna consciousness going. Otherwise, material endeavors are unnecessary. We have some duty, we perform that duty. Otherwise, we should not extraneously endeavor for that which is of a non-spiritual nature. Because the instant we start endeavoring for material things, which are temporary, whatever that may be, and we can try to rationalize. We have to always catch ourselves from rationalizing. There's so many ways to rationalize going into Maya. Even subtle Maya. Okay, it's not that you're going to go out into the bar. I'm not seeing devotees go to the bar, or whatever. But still, there's ways you can rationalize Maya, like, oh, I'm in Maya, but I won't be in Maya later on. That's a rationalization of Maya. I'm in big Maya right now, but once things go right, I got a question on here from Tejo. Remind me, I have a question from Tejo. Once things go right, then I'll be out of Maya. Then I'll be able to really practice Krishna consciousness. That's deeper form of Maya. All the scriptures give me all these warnings against doing this, but those just apply for them, not for me. That's the opposite mood of Lord Chaitanya, right? Lord Chaitanya said, I'm so much a fool, I can't understand Vedanta. So I just chant Hare Krishna. So we should actually always feel that I don't want to rationalize anything. Let me take the scriptures at face value. That's the value of taking them at face value. Don't try to rationalize certain circumstances so that you can find a way to be in control. Even Krishna consciousness can be a means by which you make a so-called good life. And then, is it Krishna consciousness? Well, you're not going to experience the same level of enthusiasm in terms of serving Krishna. Because, wow, I'm in this movement. The girls are beautiful. The food is good. People are nice. I think I can sit down and enjoy here. Or even being a brahmachari. Wow, look how many, everybody's giving them money and worshiping them. And wow, so we can find so many ways. So the solution to that is to engage in devotional service seriously. That's the solution, is to take the order of the spiritual master and put it at the forefront of your life. And when Krishna says, Mam cha yovya bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatit yatan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. If you engage in that devotional activity, not wavering, sagunan samatit yatan, then you're above the modes of nature. And you can actually realize I'm not this body. Otherwise, if we don't make active endeavor, then we're going to have to be in the modes. So therefore, it's very important we develop an intense service attitude so that we can avoid that sense of being a controller and trying to engineer things. And it really happens when you give up this idea that devotional service requires material circumstances to do. Oh, if things were this way, it would be easier. If I was a man, it'd be easier. If I was a woman, it'd be easier. If I was not in this household life, it would be easier. All of those things are forms of illusion. Rather, the devotional service has to be performed right now. That with the facilities I have, let me perform devotional service. And you can always come back to sadhana. You can always come back to what is the quality of your desire to perform sadhana, to actually hear, to chant, and to render devotional service. In any case, one can do that. And Krishna's, the symptom of surrender that Krishna gives is mameka, that you've made me number one in your life. Krishna is my priority. Krishna is not my priority, which is obvious when someone who's Krishna's the priority in their life, it becomes obvious. You can see by their activities that Krishna is their priority. And when someone has Krishna as not their priority, they may still be a devotee, but you can see that Krishna is not their priority because their activities don't reflect someone who has Krishna as my priority. Because what is Krishna? Krishna is the holy name. Krishna is the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is proper association with devotees. So when those things are the forefront of my life, the center of my life, that is surrender. And unless we're surrendered, we don't get relief from the suffering. So we have to always renounce control and give control to Krishna, and then focus on the quality of our endeavor. That's what we can control. So we can always chant better. That's what we take in a vow to do, actually. We say we're going to chant 16 rounds. It means that we're going to spend our whole lives trying to chant a better and better and better 16 rounds. Like I watched, remember Ananya Bhakti? Remember her, Ananya Bhakti? I watched her initiation. When she got initiated, I was out doing the birds and I was listening to Devamrita Swami initiate her. And one thing he said always stuck with me, that he said, taking initiation is taking a vow that you'll spend your entire life trying to chant Hare Krishna better and better and better and better. And that stuck with me nicely. But most of the time it's different, that I spend my entire life waning on the quality of my chanting, so much of the time. I start off, chanting nicely, and then, Prabhu, I chant 4 rounds nowadays, I'm already liberated, like Haridas. So it's the opposite, actually. We're increasing. That's a sign of surrender. So another example, last example, then we'll do questions, is Draupadi. As she was being derobed, she was fighting. And then she was, with one hand, she was calling Krishna. So we can also call Krishna with one hand. Yes, I'm fighting material energy, but I'm also calling Krishna with one hand. And then she put 2 hands up, actually, but she was still holding on with her teeth. She was thinking Krishna, Krishna. And still we can do like that also in our own devotional service. And finally, once she let go, surrendered, she was, actually, there's nothing I can do here. And there really is nothing we can do to stop death or so many things. We can only work on the quality of our endeavor, and our endeavor really should only be toward Krishna, meaning how am I surrendering, how am I chanting, how am I, whatever services I've been given, whatever ashram status I have, how am I engaging in that properly? And then she said, you know, hey Govinda, hey Krishna, hey Govinda. And then Krishna came through. And you could see in Prahlad Maharaj, he was totally surrendered. He wasn't praying to Krishna, please save me. He was simply accepting that whatever Krishna wants is going to happen. And therefore he was always protected. So we can meditate on these points and we'll go for questions. Sandamani has something, and then Tejo has something online.
Great class as usual. Just one comment about the chanting. It seems like when we're newer devotees, we're thinking our chanting is really great, that we're really got it toned down there to the holy name. But the more longer we're devotees and then more advancement we make, the more we realize how, our chanting is, it needs so much improvement. And like you said, every day just meditating on how I can concentrate more on the holy name, how I can hear the holy name more. And so it just seems like at the end we think we can't, chant properly. And that's actually the right attitude, because how can we chant Krishna's name purely, but only by constant endeavor and practice, then we can come up to that standard.
You always pray to Tulsi Devi in the morning when you're chanting. So you put your head to Tulsi. I always think, I don't know, you told me once you pray to, be better, to chant better. And I always think I think it's working. Just by following your chanting, my chanting is always increasing. It's always I can attribute all my good japa to Mother Sandamani. If I have any good japa. I guess I shouldn't say that. Okay, Tejo has a question. Let's see. He said, when an endeavor does not work out, should we question the quality of our effort, the sincerity of our intent, or accept that even a sincere and high quality effort can fail because of factors beyond us? Such a nice question. So sometimes it's a good thing to kind of ask ourselves, if something doesn't work out, if we're doing something for Krishna and it doesn't work out, we should question the quality of our effort. And that's a symptom of love, actually. Or that I didn't, I could have done better, I could have done this way. How can I have improved? But at the same time, my Guru Maharaj always says, I don't ever say, I did my best, because if I did my best, this wouldn't have happened. He's encouraged us not to say that. And I have a bad habit of always saying that. So I kind of always try to catch myself. But one thing I'll say is that we don't want to lament either, what was done and what couldn't be done. We can look at it, it's over, we can question it, but don't waste our energy on that. Rather move on or fix it or take some action. Once again, the quality of our effort is the main focus here, that after the fact, rather than focusing on, once again, the result in the past or in the future is going to cause some disturbance. Rather, what can I do right now to serve Krishna, or to fix the problem, or to move on and do something else? Those are what we should ask. Lalita Priya.
My question is sort of similar in some ways, but a little different. Is earlier you were talking about dissatisfaction and basically like how we should be satisfied with whatever comes along. But I think, I see that there's instances where maybe some people are kind of, like if we were just satisfied that all the cockroaches have come along here in the restaurant and we didn't do anything, we would get shut down by the health department. And so, I mean, if we, where does that line lie, right? Where dissatisfaction is an impetus to improve. So, I mean, not always, but.
Well, you have to understand your duty. It's always a matter of understanding duty. I mean, in one sense, we don't go out and kill rattlesnakes for fun. Mm-hmm. But if a rattlesnake comes into your home or into your child's playground, Eddie, we met Eddie recently.
and he posted a video. There was a giant rattlesnake, like right in his son's playground, and Eddie executed that rattlesnake. As a father, yeah, it's a duty to protect. If you own a restaurant, you have to, maintain cleanliness standards. You have to understand your own effort, your own position, and act accordingly. And that's where this anashrita karma phalam comes in, that we're not attached to the results of our actions, but rather we can focus on the part that says karyam karma karotya. We have to still act as obligated. So we have to act as we're obligated. So Jad Bharat had no obligation. You can say that, if a mother is being attacked, or a father or anybody who has responsibility of people, of dependents, they have to keep themselves alive to protect their dependents, then the proper thing to do would be to fight. Even then, if you can't fight, still the ultimate kind of solution is surrender, whatever Krishna wants. But if we can do something, we should do something. And that's also demonstrated, Jad Bharat demonstrates that he did speak up to Rahugana Maharaj. But he's not really, these dacoits are what they are. So, in any case, we always have to kind of endeavor within the sphere of what is our duty. Like Arjuna's surrender looks very different from the surrender of Jad Bharat. Why is that? Because Arjuna's a warrior, but Jad Bharat is not acting in that capacity. He's actually a brahmana, and his only business in life is to kind of come to Krishna consciousness, maintain that Krishna consciousness. Nitai.
So we're supposed to be detached from success and failure, but that doesn't mean like we shouldn't be striving for success, right?
We should strive for success, but how does that striving for success work? It works by not being attached to the result, but by, once again, the beautiful thing about this philosophy is generally we become more successful because by focusing on the quality of your endeavor rather than the fruit of that endeavor, then you're increasing the probability of success. I mean, that's a way of increasing the probability of success, because I can't control what happens here, but I can control the quality of my endeavor to whatever degree I can. And therefore, that's also striving for success as an offering to Krishna. But still, whatever happens, happens. And I think the Bhagavad Gita is a great example, is that Arjuna is fighting with his whole heart. But still in a fight, there are so many instances where Arjuna, he was, Bhishma Dev was a more powerful warrior. Karna and Drona, these are amazing warriors on the level of Arjuna. So there was no guarantee, so to speak, from a material perspective, that he would win. Yet he was fighting with all his might. Krishna did the rest. And we should also have that mentality.
Very cool. Thank you.
Not just that Arjuna said, okay, I'm surrendered, Krishna. No. Okay. Thank you all very much. Grantha Rashmi Bhagavatam Ki. And Antardeep Prabhu kindly